All right, Javon, we just got the All-Star starters not too long ago, both the East pool and the West pool. So in the West, we got Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, and Zion Williamson. The East side, we got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Donovan Mitchell, and Jason Tatum. So what do you think about the East and the West starters? And do you think anybody should have made it? And if so, who would you take off of the starters list?
Um, I think a lot of the players that made it in the All-Star starter list, I think a lot of them were pretty good. For the East, I know there were a few people that felt like there should have been some changes. I'm sorry, in the West, a lot of people had a lot of criticism about Zion Williamson, because of his injuries and how many games he has missed. Another guy that could have been in there, I kind of put him in the same category as like Anthony Davis because both of them have missed around 20 games or so. A lot of people feel like the just basically solely off of missing those games that you shouldn't really be able to be a starter. You can make the All Star game, but to be a starter is a big thing. A lot of people wanted to see somebody like Lauri Markkanen make it. I could have been fine with that because, as we know, Lauri has been on a tear, and early on in the season, Utah was doing pretty good, so I wouldn't have minded that. But the a thing that people have to realize is that the fan vote is now 50%. I think 50%. Uh,
I'm not exactly sure. I think it's 50, 25 players, 25.
Coaches.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe that's
So
what it is, but not exactly sure, not totally sure. I'll look it up
that
right
that's what it is. It's 50% fan, 25 coaches, 25 uh media. I
now.
think
No, okay, so
players.
it's 50% fans, 25% NBA players, and 25% media.
Media
Coaches would then vote on
reserves.
the reserves. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you have to realize is that the fans are kind of the ones that's really driving who gets in there. Because and I also know a good point is like a big thing is like you have league pass, you have and you have your national televised games. The teams that aren't going to be on those nationally televised games are probably not going to get the fan vote because they don't really get to see it on a regular basis. You're going to see a lot of the Celtics, the Lakers, the Warriors, and stuff like that. So that's one thing people have to realize that for the starters, at least, it's really about the fans and what they want to see. But on the East side, I kind of would have liked to see Jaylen Brown in there. I voted Donovan Mitchell. I know they put Kyrie in there. I wanted to see um, Jaylen Brown, KD, and Giannis. I was good with. But people were also talking about, Tatum versus Embiid because a lot of people say Embiid's having a big season. So I think Embiid, Jaylen Brown, and you could really go with whoever you want to go with the Western power forward. I feel like those were the people that kind of missed out who I would have considered putting in over people like Zion and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think for me, the All-Star voting as a total and the All-Star starters, a little more specifically, really um it's really a thin line between players like, oh, this person should have made it or this person should have made it. Very rarely uh do we see a big snub where you're like, man, this guy definitely should have made it. And he didn't, like something like maybe like a Bradley Bill or something when he averaged like 30 points or something like that. But even then, you have to look at, okay, who are we going to take off? And I can make a legitimate case for all of these guys that they could be starting. I think Zion is one where you're like, okay, he hasn't played enough games, so I understand that one. But everybody on the Eastern side, because I know a lot of people made an argument for Joel Embiid. Me personally, I would have liked to see him in the starting lineup because of how his team has played, especially lately, how he has played. I mean, he's been a beast like always. I mean, he's for the past the last 2 years he's been in the MVP conversation, and then this year he's again in the MVP conversation. So I think top two in the MVP conversation. So I think he should be in there. But again, who are we going to take off, especially in the format that it is? You have the guards and then you have the backcourt players. So Kevin Durant, Giannis, I think they should be in there. Yeah, so I guess you have to probably take Tatum off, but I can make a just as big of an argument for Tatum because what he has done this season and then how his team has been playing as well. So it's just tough, and it's such a thin line between this guy should make it to this guy. So I don't have a big problem with the All-Star starters. I think for the most part it's a good starting starting lineups for the All-Star game. But
Mhm.
you can make arguments for different players, but I don't have a problem with it at all in this current system. Now, my thing is if there should be consideration to just vote in the five best players from each conference. And that's something that I wanted to ask you, because I think that would eliminate a lot of this instead of having the guard, and then the three backcourt players. Do you think that they should switch to, okay, just the five best players, no matter the position, and to decide who is the best, and the starters, and then also the reserves as well?
Yeah, I could see that. Only thing is like, it's a lot of wings and bigs in this league that would probably be considered top 10. So then you're gonna be out there with, not that many guards out there.
Mhm.
It makes sense. I would probably propose a better thing would be, you know, possibly to extend the amount of people that make it each roster on each All Star game because it's only 12 players, and technically on a regular NBA roster you have 15 players, but technically only 12 are actually dressing out for the game. So I mean that could be a solution, but then you would have to consider minutes, how many people get to be out there on the floor, and all that type of stuff. But with all the changes that they do with the All Star game, you know how they've been doing the target score thing, and now they're changing the format of how each captain picks players. Is going to be like literally right before, kind of like a pickup style picking your players. They could do like starters one quarter or whatever reserves. I mean, it would have to be a lot of changes. So really, whatever you choose to do is going to be kind of a downside to it. But for now, I just think it's going to have to be the best you can to try and pick who's everybody's very worthy of it. You can make a case, but with the starters, it is a little bit tricky. But I would probably propose maybe extending the roster to one extra player each side, or something like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that that's a good idea. I think 15 is a good number, because most, like you said, most rosters go that deep. It just depends on who dresses out, whether, in terms of the roster thing, and having 12 or 15 or whatever the case may be. But I think most teams throughout all levels usually have about 15 players, 12 to 15, for the most part, unless, school sizes or whatever the case may be with that. But I like that idea. I think extending it to a 15-man roster is good. Now, in terms of the starters, I think, and actually the whole All-Star voting, I think you just put the best players in there, because especially now with positionless basketball that we have, I think you're gonna get the best players anyway, because I think you're gonna put Embiid in there, you're gonna put Giannis in there, you're gonna put LeBron, you're gonna put KD, you're gonna put those taller guys, but then you still have Steph, you still have Kyrie. I feel like Donovan Mitchell would still make the All-Star team. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, a guard, players like that. Darius Garland made it last season. I think he would have still made it then. Ja Morant, you're still gonna have those guard players in the All-Star game. because they're just that good. They deserve to be there. So I think if even if you do the positionless style of picking the all-star players, I think you're still going to get them those guards in there as well. And then if they extend it to 15 players, you're definitely going to get them in there. Donovan Mitchell, he would definitely still be in there. So um,
Yeah.
that's just how I think about it. But in terms of the current system, how it is, I don't really have much of a problem with it. I think these guys are deserving of being in the All Star game, and I think that they're deserving to be All Star starters.
Yeah, definitely. And with all the changes that they make, that very much could happen. So,
Mhm.
um, I'm sure there'll be a shakeup at some point.
Yeah, yeah. The NBA is a very progressive league, so they're always trying to come up with new ways to improve their product and improve, their version of basketball. So